Hello friends, Pastor Michael here and welcome to CG Live. I'm so excited for the conversation that's about to happen with Pastor Tim with Christians in politics. So hold your horses, it's going to be a great conversation. But before we get here, here's your weekly connection. The 90-Day Giving Challenge launches this Sunday, and giving isn't just about finances, it's a profound connection with the heart of God, a partnership in His work to change lives. Our deepest desire is to see each of us transformed into the image of Christ. And with that in mind, we're so excited to launch our 90-Day Giving Challenge. It's this Sunday, May 19th. This challenge is an invitation for you to embark on a journey of generosity, responding to God's unique call on your life. Whether you're starting small, like the widow's mite, or stepping out and sacrificial giving beyond the tithe, this challenge is tailored for you. And you can sign up by scanning the link on the screen. Also, we're so excited about Serve Sunday on May 26th. This will be an opportunity for you and your family to participate in a few activities to serve and impact our community. And here are the important details that you want to know. At Gilbert campus, we'll have special services at 7:30 a.m., 9 a.m., and 10:45. All of those services will take place in our worship center. And right after the services, you can head into the courtyard to participate in our Serve Sunday activities. At our East Mesa campus, we'll have a special service at 10 a.m. And after the service, we'll head to the courtyard for our Serve Sunday activities as well. We can't wait to see you on this very incredible and special day. Last, Vacation Bible School is coming up, and it is a fantastic opportunity to be the hands and feet of Jesus to kids in our community. We have an amazing team of volunteers, and we're looking for more. If you're interested in learning more about volunteering at VBS, head to the christgreenfield.church/VBS. Well, with that, stay tuned for our CG Live conversation.
All right, welcome to CG Live. Tim Allman here with Michael Hayden. Pastor Michael, what a joy to hang out with you today. And we're having a conversation on Christianity and politics. And before we get into maybe we'll start with the why. We have had a 2-week series. A number of people have come to it. It's been in the theater May 8th, May 15th. And the why for me is that we're immersed in a very politically polarized day and age. And what we were just saying before we hit play is there's nothing new with this. In the book of Acts that we've been in, there are all sorts of political dimensions to the movement of Jesus, right? From the Jews who are immersed in Rome to the gospel then moving beyond Israel to different places of Roman domination, right? Any insights though to the political nature of the kind of early church culture?
I mean, a ton. Just with that simple confession that Jesus is King, is very politically charged. Yeah, but yet the early church had this incredible way about itself where they were in the world but not of the world, right? We'll probably get to it. Paul's be subject to the leaders and authorities, and the leader and authority at that time, not a good dude. Yet at the same time, his confession was ultimately Jesus is King. So he had a way of holding both.
Holding both things. Tell the story of Jesus and the coin.
Yeah. So I heard this the other day. I mean, I should probably do more homework on it to make sure it's tracking, but it was, podcast or something. So it's got to be real.
Oh, yeah.
If it's not a podcast.
Everything on podcast.
Oh, yeah. But anyways, so these Pharisees they're trying to trap Jesus, and they go, should we pay taxes?
Right.
Pay taxes. Very politically charged question. And the setting is in or near the temple. And so that's when Jesus is hey, show me a coin. And so the Pharisee, the guy who asked, pulls out a coin. Well, that's a big deal because within near and around the temple, you're not supposed to have graven images. Well, what's on a coin?
Caesar,
a graven image of Caesar. And so he kind of turns the table and is gotcha on that guy. Because
who views himself as a god, type of a god, right?
Yeah,
Caesar
is
near to God.
Correct. Yeah, he definitely sees himself as
one of divine. The Godhead, divine for sure.
Yeah. And so here, this Pharisee has a graven image in and around the temple. That's a big no-no.
Yeah.
And then Jesus' classic line, he's render under Caesar's what Caesar's and what God is God's. And
what's that mean? I've always interpreted it as well, you're immersed in this context. You're under Rome, under Roman occupation, under Roman authority. So you can give that, but then at the same time, recognize that there's a God who owns absolutely everything. And your primary authority is him.
Yeah. So then what do you render? What is God's? Well, what is God's?
Everything. Me. My whole life.
Yeah. Everything. All of it is his. So you got to render into him your life. And it's almost like in a sneaky way, he gets back to like the cost of discipleship, right? Like
Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Right.
Let's go. I mean, he's such a unique, kind of a closer figure, obviously, for us. About 100 years ago, this guy said, I will, for the sake of a persecuted group of people, political division, genocide taking place, the Jews, our brothers, our Old Testament brothers and sisters, I will lay down my life. But here's the main point that he had. He recognized, and what we taught was really the two kingdoms. He recognized that in the left-hand kingdom, he was still under authority of Nazi Germany.
Right.
And he was willing to die underneath that authority to protect those that are being persecuted by that same government.
Yeah. That is so crazy. Like, so he's living in the left-hand kingdom under like the Nazi regime, which he calls out what's bad, which isn't good for him. And so and I mentioned it, like, well, he'll resist evil for the sake of his neighbor. But when Nazis come to get him, he doesn't resist.
That's right.
He goes with and eventually ends up going to his death. Like,
and there's something very practical here too for us. Those who live by the sword will die by the sword. And I think as Christians, our call is to set our mind above where Christ is. And not that I'm against government having armies. Anybody who serves in an army, you're in a left-hand kingdom role, right, to protect the vulnerable, to bring peace to the land, and to, if you're in that, to punish the wrongdoer. Right. This is the right authority of government and those that are public servants. But at the same time, we are set above. And if you're using the sword in that dimension, you're in the left-hand kingdom. But to take it out individually, I'm not going to take that sword. So people can come to me. They could be very, very mad at me about what I've said or the exclusivity of following Jesus, or because I don't believe in Jesus, you're saying I'm going to hell. I'm like, I don't know if this is what Jesus has said. And well, I'm going to take you out. Nothing against, I'm just going to get a little personal. I'm not a gun guy.
Right. Yeah.
Some people are gun guys. I've thought about it. But I'm like, I don't think that's becoming for me in my office. I'm going to trust the Lord in all things. And I've ever been in a fist fight, Michael? I've never been in a fist fight. I've never even put, you know what I'm saying? So what am I going to do? I work out for my brain. That's the only reason I work out. So anyway, just living in that tension, that right and left hand kingdom tension. Anything more?
Yeah. Well, we should probably describe like the right-hand kingdom, because the word tension is the right idea, because we kind of live in two worlds simultaneously, and the struggle is to like stay on the horse, right? If you go too far off the left-hand kingdom, well, that's going to kind of leave you in despair because the world is very fallen and broken. But if you fall way off to the right-hand kingdom, then the old cliche, right? You're so heavenly minded, you're of no earthly good. And so we live in both. But I guess, how would you describe living in the right-hand kingdom?
Jesus is Lord. He has claimed me as his own. I don't have to worry about the future. My sins have been forgiven, and I have a meaning and purpose that goes from this life into the life to come. And so the level of anxiety with which I seek to hold on and make right everything that is wrong in this world, I get to say, I'm an agent, a change agent for sure, but only by the power of the Spirit, connected to the story of Christ. And I recognize that the ultimate change agent is Jesus returning to make all things new. That's the story of which I'm a part.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. What I find so fascinating is like when we keep the tension, when we find our identity in the right-hand kingdom and our eyes fixed there, it actually drives us further into the left-hand kingdom with peace and purpose. Timothy Keller has a book called Generous Justice. It's about like biblical justice. And he goes, the beautiful thing about following Jesus is like, because of the good news of the gospel, we are empowered to seek justice, to make wrong things right. But we can work, to the bone, but we get to sleep at peace because we know ultimately Jesus will make all things new and right. So we get to like hold both. We know the end of the story, which means we can do our best to bring it into the present, making wrongs right. We get a foretaste of what is to come. But ultimately, we know I can be at peace because I know Jesus has got this. No matter who's elected, who's in office, what happens, I have a peace that surpasses understanding.
Amen. And I think we should pray for some answering the call to engage in the left-hand kingdom, to be great, godly government officials who enter in with peace. But then because we have peace, we have truth as the left prefrontal cortex, we can rightly distinguish things. We can distinguish truth from lies. And there's a lot of lies, misinformation, and power plays that take place in the political realm. So Christians can enter in and say, well, we're going to talk about some of the issues that are meaningful to people and are counter to them thriving. And I'll just list a few. I think killing babies is not great. I understand the complexity. It's not good. I would say like the movement of the heavy pro-choice movement in America has a dark demonic realm to it. And it's almost a religion of sorts. So Christians can kind of enter in and say, I understand there's
a lot of nuances.
There's a lot of nuances to moms and pregnancies, rape, the whole whole thing. But at the end of the day, our God is a God of life. Right. And anything created in the womb is a gift from him. So that's just one topic that we can, and by the way, in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, we are a pro-grace, pro-life congregation. So I'm not saying anything that's just an issue though. Yeah. Another issue, and this is like really, really nuanced today, is the Israeli Palestinian conflict. And there's a lot of people that are really hot about that. Yeah. I will say this. I can only say two things. Historically, the Jews have been an oppressed people. And it appears as if what happened on October 7th was very, very evil. I can say both of those things. Now, how they're working it out right now, that's beyond my pay grade. You know what I'm saying? This is a long-standing struggle between Palestine, which is just a group of people, not necessarily a nation, and how they occupy Israel and the surrounding Gaza Strip. Like, this is a major struggle historically that people in the left-hand kingdom are going to have to figure out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I'd say is I think if you look, so violence and war has been a part of the story, literally from Genesis 3. Yep. Like the first family, the first generation did not go well. Right. Did not go well. But this is not what we were made for. What's interesting is, so God kicks them out of the garden and they go east. And you see this progression of God's people going east, farther and farther away from the garden. And so when he commits murder, that's not what he was made for. And so he goes farther east. And then violence just expands. I think it's because this is not what we were created for. We weren't made to have these wars, but because of our brokenness and being so far from the fullness of the image we're supposed to bear, there's just conflicts everywhere. And so I think it is safe for us to be war's bad, guys. We don't want war.
Yes.
It's no good for anybody. Nobody really wins.
No.
There's no winners.
It's awful.
It's awful. It's awful.
I am because I'm a history guy. So I'm fascinated by the origin story of the Civil War, World War I and II, because those are within our recent American story, the Revolutionary War as well. But I just look at it and all these kids going off and hundreds of thousands of them dying, millions over all those wars. This is not of God. So in the left-hand kingdom, I believe if we lived, Michael, by the 10 Commandments, whether they're written on tablets or in our hearts, which they are, the society in general is better.
Would be much better. Yeah. Agreed.
So there's a platform for you if you're the left-hand kingdom. Let's talk about, and you can re-understand or remarket the 10 Commandments. Murder's bad. Adultery's bad, right? Coveting's bad. Yeah. All these things. Having other gods, the ultimate bad.
Yeah. And you're right. If we abided by those, war would,
I don't think
it would cease.
Yeah, it would cease. It would cease. It's like God knew what he was doing.
It's like he knew how he created us. It's wild.
So final question. What are your biggest tips for not living anxiously in this election season?
I really think, I've said this line quite a bit, and this is because my parents said this to me all the time, but just remember whose you are, who you actually belong to, where our ultimate hope lies. And it's in Jesus, the King and Lord of all. And so, whatever happens like politically, it isn't the end of the world.
It's the end of the world as we know it. No, it's not.
No, it's not. When Jesus come back to make things new,
it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
And it's going to be good, and you're going to be fine. And I feel fine. Sorry to just...
That song, yeah. Next worship song right there. Just take it from the radio.
Yeah, and so I'll add to that. You're going to be okay, and invite the Holy Spirit to help you control what you can control. This is your spiritual habits, your disciplines, your immersion in the Word, your living in community with others, taking care of your body. All of those things are going to help us keep our minds and live above, because the church does have a very, very huge role. I do believe it's one of those pivotal times in American history where the peace of Christ that surpasses understanding can change history.
Right.
I pray it will.
Yeah. And what a witness that is to the world around us. If we have peace, the last thing I would say too is like the other person who maybe you don't agree with is not the ultimate enemy. They're actually somebody who got created and loved. And so can you see Christ in the other person and like love them in the same measure that Jesus would? And that too, I think, will give you peace, even in the midst of turmoil, even in the midst of like disagreeing with them. You can still love them.
When hated, we love. When cursed, we bless.
Yeah.
And we do it because that's the way of Jesus. He's a suffering, sacrificial servant who laid down his life for us and for the world. So do not be afraid. Jesus is on the throne. He's going to come back to make all things new. In the meantime, find your meaning and purpose identity solely in him. Any final word, Michael?
Oh, that's it.
All right, baby. Yeah. This is CG Live. Thanks for hanging with us today. Back next week. Peace.